July.
Yeah,
They didn't
it was July. They didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to our Shabbat service, our second Shabbat in the Hebrew month of Elul, the month before our high holidays. We'll be coming up to a full moon, actually, I believe in just a few days. And when we look at it, we can know that our next full moon is going to be during Sukkot. We are in a time of reflection, a time to look back at our past year and see the areas where we did well, see the areas where we need some improvement. But in any event, we know that we can make next year even better. Our opening song this evening is Lechu Neranana. I will share my screen so everybody can see. It is now my pleasure to invite up to bless and sanctify our Shabbat candles, Pat Gibbs. Oh, Pat, you are on mute. Still on. There you go.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, everyone. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu lahadlik nel sher Shabbat.
Amen. And we now come from our time of bringing in Shabbat, our Kabbalat Shabbat, to the time of actually observing our wonderful holiday of Shabbat, as we begin our formal service, our Ma'ariv service on Shabbat with the Baruch Hu, is I invite everyone to please rise in either body or spirit. Everyone may be seated. And I want everyone, if it's all right, to take a look and see if you notice anything about the pictures in this PowerPoint and the progression that's happening. But we move now to our Ma'ariv Aravim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtsono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi layla, uma'avdil bein yom uvein layla, Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. I invite now the congregation to please rise as we turn to our Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Vaed.
Everyone may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Standing on the parted shores of history, we believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, אדוני לפני משה, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai haparos sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. We come now to the song Yismechu. All of the songs and prayers so far that we've done traditionally are done every evening, but Yismechu is one that is done only on Shabbat. So I know we're muted, so we can't sing together, but that also means no one will judge you for how long, for how loud, or perhaps even how poorly you sing. It is time just to get into the spirit. And so other than the people that are already in your house, I suppose. So make sure we're giving us that nice ruach with this song, Yismechu.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha v'korei oneg. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha v'korei oneg. Amekadesh Eshuviv, Kulam yisbehu v'tangu mituvecha, ve'ashvi ratzita bo, v'kidashto. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha v'korei oneg. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha v'korei oneg. Chemdat yamim oto karata, zecher l'maseh, zecher l'maseh b'reishit. Chemdat yamim oto karata, zecher l'maseh, zecher l'maseh b'reishit. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha v'korei oneg. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha v'korei oneg.
We come now to our congregational tefillah, our Amidah, as I invite the congregation to please rise, neither body or spirit. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita kilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita kilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Ha'akol, v'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gvurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memihit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Nemanata Lechayot Metim. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye HaMetim. Atah Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim bechol yom Yahalelucha Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Everyone may be seated. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We continue now with the song, Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Al Kol Yisrael, Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Al Kol Yisrael, Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru Amen. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru, Amen. Ve'imru, Amen.
So we come now to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for reading our Torah. And although we don't actually have the Torah, although it looks like it is behind me, we don't actually have the Torah with us, so you don't have to stand or rise as we sing the song Al Shlosha Devarim, but you should know that the world does stand on three things: that Torah, that worship and work, and those great and awesome, loving, kind deeds.
Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omer, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omer, HaTorah ve'al Havodah ve'al Gemilut Chasadim, HaTorah ve'al Havodah ve'al Gemilut Chasadim.
Rabbi, you're muted.
Oh, and I said something so wise. Anyway, so our portion this week is Ki Titzeh. This portion has actually 74 of the 613 commandments in the Torah. So it's pretty mitzvah heavy. And if anyone can do the quick math, that's actually about 12% or an eighth of all commandments in this portion alone. Some of the mitzvot we learn about are the rights of children, what to do with a rebellious child, burials, lost objects, and of course, many, many other laws. We hear about judicial procedures and penalties for certain commandment breaking, and we hear about the laws over a military camp. We hear about what happens if there's a divorce, and then we hear as the portion ends, an obligation to remember what Amalek did to the Israelites, but not just to remember it, to never forget it. We get both commandments, to remember and not to forget. We will talk about that in a little bit, and the importance of those two commandments. Ta'amod Rachel Shifrei bat Rafuel Yitzchak Umira Gittel la'aliyah haTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ki titzei lemilchama al oivecha utnatno Adonai Elohecha v'yadecha v'shavita shivyo harita v'ashivya ishet yafa tohar v'chashita v'lachta lecha lisha v'shavta el toch beitecha v'gilcha et rosha v'asata et ziporneha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Our thoughts now turn to those of our communities and families who are ill and in need of healing. We think this evening of Norm Black, Jill Levant, Elwood Frederick Bryan, Rick Westerman, Kevin Levinson, Jenna Levinson, Lucy Gleason, Laura Alberton, Scott Burstein, Nisa Scott, Kai Harrison, Martin Colbert, Ashley Rose, John Wilkerson, JD Mann, Mary Mann, Mark Zellman, David Rabins, Sarah Vered Bat Shoshana, Robin Shannon, Paul Cox, and Martha Titiner, and all who suffer, whom we know not by name. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yakov, V'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, Hu Yivarek v'Repet Kol Cholei Israel v'Yishlach Lechem b'Meira, Refuah Shlema, Refuah Nefesh, Refuah Aguf, V'Nomar, Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are stricken. May the Holy One of Praise mercifully restore them to health and to vigor. May God grant them health of body, health of spirit, and of mind. And let us say, Amen.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikor
B'nai Mitzvah process starts about a year prior to a student's B'nai Mitzvah date. Even though the students don't really start meeting with me until 6 or 7 months before that date, families begin to wake up to the fact that this is really happening when their son or daughter becomes eligible to start signing in for their 13 required services a year before that special date. Tonight, we have the opportunity to publicly begin one person's B'nai Mitzvah journey. So it is my pleasure to invite Haley to join me in the virtual Bima to share in this moment. Haley, I want to present to you this prayer book, which you actually received this afternoon, to use over the next year or maybe even beyond that, to become more familiar with the service preparation for your big day in March. I am happy to pass this prayer book to you, Haley. Congratulations.
Haley, do you want to unmute and show off the prayer book that you have?
How do I see you? I can't see you.
Oh, there you are. Oh, we see you. There you are. Oh, wonderful. And something to note about that prayer book is that there's no transliteration. It's all the Hebrew that Haley is going to be learning. So we now have Haley, who next year will give the prayer book to the 6th grader who will share this Torah portion with her. Thus, we link tradition and Torah together, building and strengthening our Jewish community. If there's anyone else here who had the portion Ki Titzeh as their Torah portion, I invite you to please raise a virtual hand as I give everyone here a special blessing. Yivarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God's countenance shine upon you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And may God give you peace. We now continue on with our service, and it is my pleasure to invite up to read for our prayer for Israel, Gail Farr.
O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
And now for our prayer for the United States of America, Erica McQuarrie.
Okay, now how do I see it? Where do I go? How do I see it?
There you go.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to make it bigger. That lady's head's in the way. I can't see.
Move it down. You can move the head.
Move the head down? Oh my God, I suck at this. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Oh, guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing with those who are in need. Help us appreciate one another and to respect the many ways we serve you. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace and it advocates among the nations. I need to make it bigger. I can't really see. I lost it now. Damn it.
It's all right. You read very well.
I'm sorry. I can finish it. I stole Haley's phone.
Oh, sounds good.
Okay. May consummate reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes, strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of your name hallow forever home in every heart. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. Amen.
Thank you so much. And now to read our prayer for essential workers, Kenya Madison Gabler.
Okay. During times of crisis and fear, we ask for our blessing upon your inhabitants, that they are welcome under the shelter of your protection and peace. Bless those who are suffering, all who are in pain. May they be blessed with wholeness and strength. Please send your blessing to the heroes of the moment, the doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers on the front lines of this pandemic, those whose holy work is to save as many lives as possible. Bless the work of their hands and hearts. Protect them from illness and despair, exhaustion and overwhelm. And send your blessing to all of our essential workers who deliver food, stock the shelves, teach our youth, and otherwise put their lives on the line every day to bring us as much normalcy as possible. Bless those who strengthen our local communities and ultimately the world, as we are intrinsically connected to one another. May we be blessed with your divine love, and let us say amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. As we continue now, we return the Torah to the Ark with the song Eitz Chaim Hi. And even though we're not actually returning the Torah, we should always be celebrating when we hear Eitz Chaim. One, because it's the Torah, and two, because our congregation, of course, is named Eitz Chaim.
Eitz Chaim Hi lamachazikim avetomchecha Meushar Eitz Chaim Hi lamachazikim avetomchecha Meushar. Shalom, 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 shalom. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Is its tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom.
57 years ago today, there was a march on Washington, a march to advocate for the civil and economic rights for African Americans. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, which called for an end to racism. 57 years from the speech, we know, unfortunately, all too well that we've yet to reach that dream. The mitzvah to remember Amalek and to not forget what he did to the Israelites ends our weekly Torah portion, Ki Titzeh. Now, this is not the only time during the year that we receive this commandment. We hear this before the holiday of Purim, with the Shabbat called Shabbat HaZachor, or the Shabbat of Memory. We learn at this time that Haman, the main villain of the Purim story, is a descendant of Amalek, which is why this section is read right before Purim. We are taught not just to hate Amalek, but to wipe out all his descendants, and not just to remember to do it, but not forget to do it as well. And that's how it's phrased. And this I can very much understand to be an uncomfortable commandment. And it has been one for thousands of years. To wipe out a whole group of people, that sounds pretty terrible. However, the rabbis had another way to understand this commandment as not a literal mitzvah, but to wipe out all that Amalek stood for. So for that, we need to ask ourselves, what was it that Amalek stood for? Well, now Amalek is known for attacking the Israelites from behind when they left Egypt. Now, this was seen as particularly cruel, as the Israelites had no means of defense, and the Amalekites were there to take advantage of a vulnerable group of people. They were there to be oppressive. Now, this is why the rabbis were able to take the law of blotting out the line of Amalek as a call to end oppression for anyone. The zeal in this commandment is an emphasis on the dismantling systems of injustice. And it's not that we just remember it, but that we don't forget to blot out this oppression. It's doubly important as oppression deals two blows. to the person who is oppressed and unable to fulfill their potential, and to the society who has lost a person's contribution because of that oppression in their community. Now, just as we got last week with the famous commandment in Shoftim, justice, justice, you shall pursue, or tzedek, tzedek tirdof, this week we hear another way to remember to not forget to blot out that injustice and oppression, to be there for our neighbors, even if we are not the ones who may be oppressed. We are better when everyone can reach their full potential. Now, we learned from another leader, one that we've already mentioned, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., that although it was not in the speech on the March on Washington, but one where he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I think that we have that same commandment in this Torah portion. And on this day, 57 years ago, a rabbi also spoke on that March of Washington, March on Washington. Rabbi Joachim Prinz, who said, the concept of a neighbor is a moral one, not a geographical one, which was to say that everyone is our neighbor, and we are always commanded to fight for and with them, to remember to do that, and to never forget it. Now, this is particularly relevant today. We've seen countless times people of color shot and killed by police, most recently in the nearby city of Kenosha. Because of these deep roots of racism in this country, we know all too well that this was not, of course, an isolated incident, and one which can happen in any community, could happen in ours just likely as anywhere else. This is a system of oppression. This is exactly what we are called to blot out. And we know this from this week's Torah portion, what we have to do. But the question still remains, how can we do it? And for this, I would like to say that racism is a radical problem, but radical in the original meaning of that word, in that it is a root of our society. Now, we may remember in math class that when we learn about what a radical is, it means a root. And that's really what that word means. And that racism is a radical problem, that it is a root, and that permeates through all of our institutions. Every leaf is affected by a root. Now, so the first step, I think, is really to examine, quite literally, root out racism in our own institutions. Now, if you're interested in this aspect as it pertains to Eitz Chaim, we host weekly discussions on racism on Sunday afternoons virtually, how we can recognize it better and how we can, of course, blot it out. Everyone in the congregation is always welcome. But beyond our institution of Eitz Chaim, we also must look at the institutions we all use. Now, we know racism exists in our emergency services. There are many studies which show that people of color are believed less by medical professionals when it comes to ailments. And as we've seen just this past week, Black people are at a much higher risk of being met with deadly force by the police. This was evident when Jacob Blake was unarmed and was shot in the back, and an armed Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 people and wasn't even arrested until the next day. Now, anti-racial bias training for the police force is the minimum that we can help do in this issue of systemic racism. Now, Eitz Chaim happens to be a leader in the community in bringing this training to DePage Police. We have been meeting with many leaders of color and helping set up this dialogue with law enforcement. However, as always, we are met with questions of, it's not in the budget, so we're still going to need the help from our congregation, and information will be coming soon on how we can contact our county commissioners to assure that this training is important for the budget coming this next year. Now, another step is to decrease interaction between sometimes the police and the community by providing other areas that can help out, especially in times of mental health or addiction issues. Now, the police have actually worked with our citizens group, DuPage United, on this issue and provided crisis intervention training for DuPage Police, which teaches de-escalation tactics. But there still must be a place to bring those in the middle of a mental health crisis that is better than a jail or an emergency room. And if you're interested in helping with this campaign of creating these crisis stabilization units, please let me know. But there are still many barriers to institutions of housing and education that also must be broken as well. Now, we need more leaders to help in these endeavors so we can better understand and root out racism in our institutions. We need more leaders to help us bring in new ideas of how to fight this racism and to build more relationships with our communities of color. We do this so we can blot out Amalek's oppression, so we can be partners in justice, so we can affirm and act so Black lives matter. A justice our Torah calls for often and loudly, so that we can help provide safety for all communities, so that we don't wake up to the news that someone else of color in our community has been shot, so that no one else has their life cut short, so that we remember all those who have been lost because of racism and never forget to bring our passions to our institutions in blotting out that racism forever. To remember what happened this past week to Jacob Blake, and to not forget that root of racism in our community, and perhaps to fulfill that dream the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. had 57 years ago. Shabbat Shalom.
It's a good sermon.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi.
Thank you. All right, we now are going to hear some announcements from our president, who is representing, as he will say, our executive board tonight.
Thank you, Rabbi. And I want to thank everyone for coming to services tonight. Sorry we couldn't have it outside, but at least we're all dry and we're not all sweating. I'm Mike Sawyer, and I am representing the board of directors tonight. First, let us congratulate Haley McQuarrie in her prayer book passing. And also thank you to Rabbi Camel for leading our service. And of course, thank you to Cindy Mike Alassi for leading with our beautiful music, with her beautiful voice. This week, we have a few of our regular programs. Torah study is tomorrow morning at 9:30. And Talmud study is on tap at 7 on Monday evening, 7 p.m. All the Zoom information can be found in your email that came out at the end of the week. Now, since the first event, our first food truck event was such a major success and people have been clamoring to bring it back, we will be hosting the More Food Truck Fun on Thursday, September 3rd, that's next week, from 5 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. in the parking lot. Join us for pizza and ice cream, and there will be a follow-up email. It's going to be sent this week. And I think this week probably means Sunday or later, for any final RSVP. So be on the lookout. It's a first come, first served. As a reminder, the rules of the Illinois Department of Health requires us to limit the people to 50 people and, keeping the safe distance. Finally, as we do gear up for the high holidays, all the information on this event will be sent out via email as soon as earlier today. The first email came out, but there'll be more. We're very excited with the upcoming events for the high holidays as we navigate our new normal in this very interesting time in our history. And I certainly hope, like the rest of you, this is a short time in our history compared to the full time. So thank you so much for being here. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Mike. We continue now with our concluding services, beginning with the Aleinu, as I share my screen and invite the congregation to please rise in either body or spirit.
Aleinu l'shapeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר וחי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who are no longer with us. Tonight, as a community, we remember and honor the Yortsites of Robert Fishman, uncle of Sherry Kaiser, Jordan Frank, father of Judith Lerner, Lucille Jaffe, mother of Judith Poklow, Nathan Krasnow, father of Eugene Krasnow, Eugene Steinman, cousin of Barry Ehrlich, Safria Asiag, aunt of Nelson Hanan, Irene Farr, mother of Gail Farr, Ruth Jacobson, mother of Robert Honig, Fridell John, aunt of Lynn Whippich, Dorothy Lipson, aunt of Kathy Lease, Kenneth Harris, stepfather of Kenya Madison Gabler, Florence Stoller, grandmother of Michael Stoller, Elliot Seidel, father of Jeff Seidel, Cindy Chaliff, grandfather of Bonnie Madison, Harry Cantor, father of Laura Berry, Shirley Mitnick, mother of Ricky Mitnick, Samelia Sarku, mother of Moni Sarku, Evelyn Sugar, grandmother of Michael Stoller, Cynthia Marmer, stepmother of Julie Kalwat, Todd Tactile, son-in-law of Faye Herback and brother-in-law of Al Herback, Norman Tatiner, husband of Joy Tatiner and father of Gary and Stephen Tatiner, Anna Mae Levine, mother of Joseph Levine. We also mourn the recent passing of Shirley Bobb, mother of Rabbi Stephen Bobb, Clarice Lifson, mother of Larry Lifson, and Daniel Schoenberg, husband of Sue Schoenberg. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we rise as one community for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach yotei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah b'rechu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imrumav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Ve'imru amen. Ve'imru amen. Ve'imru amen. Ve'imru amen.
Our closing song this evening, Shir Chadash, sing a new song. And as I mentioned, everyone, we can bring our Ruach to this wonderful holiday of Shabbat.
Shiru, shiru, l'Adonai. Shiru, shiru, l'Adonai. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai
Let us go out to this Shabbat to joy, to rest, and to peace. From the Camel family to yours, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Real quick, real quick,
shalom.
real quick.
Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat
Shalom.
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 Sorry, couldn't figure out the Zoom.
Real quick. Gail, hello, and Pat, thanks for your service.
Okay. Hi, Langston.
Have a good night, everybody.
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
Good to see
everybody.
everyone.
Oh, look at that little sweetie.
Yeah, so cute.
I think Rachel and Andrew left. I was going to introduce them because they brought a baby too. That's okay.
Rabbi, your graphics were great.
Oh,
They were.
For some reason, I think probably unwarrantedly proud of that, how I made it so it started off in sunsets and then went to dark with all the pictures. I don't know
All the
why I was so
stars.
proud of that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good. Very poetic.
Oh, thank you.
And Maddie's the pièce de résistance also. Yeah.
Oh, here he is.
Oh,
Our Machiru. It's almost his bedtime.
So big.
The wide eyes.
How old is he now? 2 months?
He is almost 4.5 months.
Oh, he's going like a weed. Are you
I know
kidding?
he is. I actually want to say Shabbat Shalom, Machiru.
He's objectively adorable.
Once.
Objectively.
Here she is. Our baby room. All right. Well, we probably should put him to bed soon because he is tired.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye. Yashir
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cindy. Sounded great.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good
Cindy,
to see you
Shabbat, thank you.
guys.
Yasher Koach.
You as
I
well.
love the
Night.
Hanana.
Thank you.
Yoshi Zweibeck was my year in Israel rabbi, so I know him. He always played these songs that we made with Ken Chazen.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, how lucky you were. Wow.
I wanted to know where Mike Sawyer's background is.
Oh, we were trying to figure that out before. We weren't sure, I guess.
There's some background I downloaded. I think I was at the Museum of Science and Industry site, and I believe that's one of the models they have.
I think it might be.
I do too. However,
Models of what?
We'll have to go. I'm going to go look after services. After we hang up.
Models of what? Like the dollhouse
Yeah,
downstairs?
the Colleen Moore stuff.
yeah, something like that. Great room or something. I don't know. I only had 2 choices tonight, and last night or the other day I had about 8 choices. So a bunch of stuff disappeared. Magic. Zoom magic.
Well, whenever I start to have problems with my computer, I deinstall Zoom and have to start all over again with my collection of Zoom backgrounds.
Well, let me ask
Put
you
'em all
guys
in a
something.
file.
Did my picture or my video at any point freeze up or slow down or speed up?